This is Season 3 of The Score, the Team Roping Journal's regular podcast, where the team roping world talks. We've told the stories of some of the greatest cowboys, horses, and moments in the sport, and we're so far from done. In 2020, we'll bring you more of what you've come to expect, like interviews with the best cowboys and cowgirls we know, and we'll dive even deeper into subjects you care about. Look for more audio editions of the Team Roping Journal stories you might have missed in print, and learn about the great horses shaping the sport and great challenges facing our industry. All this and more in 2020. I'm Chelsea Schaefer. Hey everybody, welcome to The Score. I've waited for a while to do an interview on this podcast with Clay O'Brien Cooper. The 7-time world champion has almost $4 million in ProRodeo earnings, but it's been his steady demeanor paired with his monthly presence in the Team Roping Journal and our predecessor Spin to Win that made him one of the most beloved names in all of team roping. Champ is as even-keeled as it gets, and in times like these, when so little about life looks the same, Champ still does. And for that, I'm ever grateful. Please enjoy today's visit with Clay O'Brien Cooper as a reminder of all that's right and good with the world. Today's episode is brought to you by Manna Pro. At Manna Pro, they believe in nurturing life. Since 1985, Manna Pro has been committed to providing high-quality, wholesome feeds, supplements, and treats to your horses at every stage of their lives. Their passion is happy, healthy pets, and they're your trusted partners just for that. Well, good morning, sir. What are you up to this morning?
Oh, it's a typical morning for me. Have some coffee with my wife and listen to a Bible teaching message for about 30 minutes or so. And then I go out and feed the horses and the cattle. And maybe rope the dummy a few times and hit a few wiffle balls, golf balls, and then come back in and start doing planning for whatever things I need to do today.
Yeah. Now, how many horses are you guys keeping around these days with a kind of a different rodeo schedule than the last 30 years or so?
I just have 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And are they colts? Are they green? What are you working on with them right now?
I've got a good horse that's pretty solid that I got from Jake Barnes here about a month ago.
Oh, cool.
When I went to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold the horse down there and I bought a horse. And so that one is one that I could take and compete on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a 6-year-old that I've been riding for a couple years that's just about ready to go to some jackpots. And then I have a 3-year-old mare that I bought the other day that I'm just starting on. And I've got the old horse LB that's retired.
What's LB's life look like these days?
LB is very big and fat.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife rides him 2 or 3 times a week, just walks him around and just cruises him around to keep him kind of exercised. And so that's about his routine.
Sure. Now, speaking of horses, I was just looking back through old articles and I was hoping you could tell me about Ike and where Ike came from and how he came to be such a great one for you.
Well, there is some real good friends that I've known for years and years. Even when our families knew each other when I was a little kid. And their name is Ozzie and Judy Gillum. and they used to live in Oakdale and raise horses and roped. And when we would go to California in the springtime for rodeoing, Jake and I would stay at their place for the whole month of April, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And we would rope and rodeo and go back and forth. And Ike, Ozzy sent Ike to me when he was 4-year-old, and I rode him one winter and sent him back. And then every year after that, I guess until he was 9, when I would go to California in the spring, I would rope on him, practice on him, and he would ask me what he needs to do different and what he needs to do better and this and that. And so he'd have a whole year to work on him. And by the time he was 9 years old, in, I believe it was 92, I crippled my good horse at Tucson, and I was afoot. And I was searching and thinking about horses. And I thought, man, I've been riding that horse of Ozzy's out there every year. And that horse felt really good the last time I rode him. So I called up Ozzy and said, hey, would you sell Ike? I lost my good horse. And he said, I've been waiting for you to call. And so that's where I got Ike.
That's awesome. And what set him apart from other horses that you've ridden over your career?
You know, that horse he could really, really run. And then he was just a real natural stopper. So for the rodeos, he was really good because he could really, really get from the back of the box to the end of the corner there without any problem. And then when he got there, he would just start sliding and stopping, and it just had a real good smooth stop. And he just fit my timing. The way when he stopped, he just knew right when I was bringing it, and the way he fit into my throw with how he stopped just kind of fit real good. And then what ended up happening, he was just so tough and durable that he lasted from 92 until I think I rode him at the 2003 finals.
Wow.
So 11 years. That's a long time for a horse to be on the road.
Heck yeah. And so I'm sure it was probably a combination of his breeding and then Ozzy spending all that time with him up until that point too. Those are probably two great credits to the horse. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any other driftwood horses after Ike?
Yeah, I traded horses back and forth with Ozzy for years. I mean, up until recently. So for years and years, I've had some of that line of horses off and on. And so yeah.
Have they become your favorite, or do you have a favorite bloodline to ride at this point, or has it all just been individual horses that have ended up great?
Yeah, I never ran onto one with that caliber out of that line. I mean, I've had some pretty good ones, but not just the really great ones. So and to be fair, most of the ones that I would get would be young horses that I would go season, and then end up
Mm-hmm.
usually selling them before I really got to rodeoing on them.
Sure.
Because a good one would come along and I would buy him, and then I'd put him in the lineup, and then so.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
through those years, I went through lots of horses. I mean, we had lots of horses because we roped a lot, and you need a lot to ride, so you don't just burn them out. So a lot of horses came and went through the years.
Do you like the buying and selling of horses? I think you either like trading horses or you don't. But I'm not saying you were a horse trader by any means. But do you like that activity and that process?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I kind of do. I mean, it's just kind of part of the part of the process and part of what you do as a full-time rodeo guy, roper that ropes for a living, is you're constantly looking for good horses and trying to buy them, and then on the other end of it, then and you sell them and you buy them and you sell them and you buy them, and it just kind of is a revolving door, really.
Have you ever sold one that you regret selling that ended up like, man, if you'd had that one, you'd have won one more world title, or that anyone that ever became just great after you owned it?
Yeah, I've sold several that I wished I wouldn't have sold,
Hmm.
that
Um,
were just really good horses. I sold them because they were kind of getting some age on them,
hmm.
and then after I sold them, the guys I sold them to rode them for 4, 5, 6, 7 years,
Yeah.
and I was like, my goodness, I should have kept that horse. Just
Sure.
so there's been 3 or 4 or 5 like that I, in hindsight, I wished I would have kept, but I got a good price for what I thought, and for the age, and those are decisions that you make.
Yeah, turned out to be a smoking deal in the long run for whoever bought the horse, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one of my favorite topics on this podcast is I always ask ropers to take me back to their arena as a kid, to their practice pen with their parents as a kid. And you and I have done stories over the years where we've referenced it, but I feel like I would love to hear you describe to me your arena as a kid and who was there. What did the practices look like? I think like it would be such a cool book to talk about. Everybody, you should write a book about growing up where you did and how you did. So could you tell me a little bit about what your arena was like when you were learning to rope there in California?
Well, we lived in Selmar, California, which is a suburb of LA,
Mm-hmm.
the San Fernando Valley, and my dad, or our family, ran a jackpot roping on the weekends, and so our arena was a commercial roping arena, basically.
And there was
And
Dally team roping back then.
yeah,
Dally team roping. Okay.
Dally team roping.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother Sam, he's 6 years older than me. He roped. He would rope both ends, and I started out heading, so I headed and he heeled, and my dad headed and my mom heeled. And then we had, friends of the family that were always coming to the ropings and always hanging around, and they would come rope. And so it was just kind of a lot of different characters of people and the family, and then the kids that came and helped and worked. It was just kind of my dad was a real character, so he just an old school cowboy guy, but a real communicator. I mean, he was unique, and so he had a cast of characters around him that were just as wild and unique as him.
And what did your dad do for a living?
My dad did everything. He worked in the motion picture business as a wrangler on the weekdays. Before that, he shod horses for a living. He ran the roping. He traded horses. He traded cattle. We had a milk cow. We had chickens. We had butcher goats. We had always had a butcher steer. I mean, we were kind of like we lived off the land in the little farm
in the middle of Los Angeles.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Now, your dad's foray into the motion picture business, that left him with some very interesting friends, right? That would come over to rope. There were some celebrities that would swing by from time to time.
Yeah, a lot of people in the motion picture business came to our ropings. A lot of the stunt people and actors and people that worked in the motion picture business. That was probably half of our clientele of ropers that came on the weekends.
That would be so cool. I think at one point you had maybe told me there were like old videotapes of those days in the arena. They're like old pictures from those times that you look back on every once in a while. I bet that would be so neat to see.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so, of course, on that subject, I know every time back when Kendra and I both were working for American Cowboy Magazine, and we would do all those John Wayne special issues, we would have to call you and you would have to give us a quote about working in the Cowboys. But I think on the podcast we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it because folks absolutely admire you for that experience. Could you tell me, like, how did you get involved with that, and how did that transpire, and what was the experience like?
Well, when they were trying to set up the producers and were trying to set up how they were going to do the Cowboys, they had 11 actor kid roles, and they decided that they wanted to blend the kids as half of them being Hollywood actor kids and then half of them being real cowboy kids, and then also use cowboy kids as for the stunt double parts and stand-in parts as well. So when that word got out, then the producers asked my dad if he could gather together from that region as many cowboy kid from the junior rodeos and the jackpot ropings and stuff as he could, and the producers could come out and look at them and watch them ride and rope and do their thing, and pick the ones that they thought would possibly be good for the parts that they were trying to fill. And so that's what they did. And so there was a number of us that got picked to go in and read for the parts, and then some of us got chosen and for the actor roles, and some got chosen for the double stand-in parts, and that's how they
Was it something that, like, I know kids maybe can't understand like the gravity of a situation, but was it something that you were excited for, that you were nervous about, or was it just something that, you know, you were so used to being around actors and act every day anyway that it was no big deal? Tell me, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I was the littlest one. I mean, I was 9 years old at the time, but I fully knew what was going on and the kind of the gravity of the situation. So yeah, I was kind of excited and nervous, and wondering if I would be picked. I had to go in and read like 3 separate times to try out for it. And so, each time you go in and you're given a script and you're given 10, 15, 20 minutes to kind of learn the lines, and then you have to go in cold turkey and sit across from a producer or a director, and they read the other part, and then you have to deliver the lines and act it out as if you were in the scene. And I had to do that a lot in 5 years after that. But that was the first time I'd encountered doing that, trying out for a part. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's a little unsettling, but
sure,
it is what it is. You just go in, you try to learn the lines as fast as you can, and then you try to deliver them as best you can, and you either get it or you don't.
At what point did you decide? Tell me about the decision between rodeo and acting. When did that decision happen? And was it an easy decision, or was there any decision to make at all?
Oh, not really, because I worked from 9 until I was 15. And when I was small for my age, I was always the littlest one in my class, and I was just kind of a little midget kid. And but when I turned 15, I grew a foot, and my voice changed. And so I went from a little kid to this gangly, pimple-faced, in between gawky, interim between child and manhood. And at that stage, your career is kind of done until you mature, because having kids, working kids and kids parts is for the studio or production is not that great, because kids have to have welfare worker. You got to have a welfare worker, teacher. You can only work so many hours a day, and you have to have so much schooling a day. And there's all these parameters that they have to deal with, that when there are parts of 15, 16, 17-year-old aged parts in movies, then they get kids that are 18, 19, 20 years old that are out of school, that look like they're that age. And they don't have to mess with the welfare worker and all the things, all the hoops they got to jump through.
Sure.
So my deal was basically going to be done. I could have I could have hung around and did worked as a stunt kid or something like that. And then eventually maybe got some competed for some parts and maybe stayed in it. But my heart was not there. I had worked. It was work for me, just to make money, and it was kind of for a kid, it's kind of a pain in the butt to have to work from 9 years old to 15 years old steady. And I was wanting to rope. I was wanting to go do that. So it was fine for me. That my decision was so at 15, I'm thinking about that, and at 16 I know that I'm gone, because I get my driver's license. That's freedom.
And that's when you went to Arizona, right? Or did you wait till you were 18 to go to Arizona?
No, in fact, I got my driver's license on my birthday and drove to San Diego and bought my truck. I bought a little half shell camper thing that just had a bed in it. And I bought me a 2-horse trailer. And when school was out on, I think it was the end of May or something, I took off for Arizona. I had some buddies over there, and they were having ropings and jackpots, and I went and stayed with my real dad. So who we've been talking about is my stepdad.
Gene
And,
O'Brien was your stepdad, right?
right. So I went to stay with my real dad and my stepmom in northern Arizona and jackpot and rodeo, amateur rodeo all summer. So I was gone.
We're going to take a break from this interview to talk about Cetal M, the joint health supplement. Champions, colleagues, and personal trainers. Whatever role they play, they're an important part of our lives. And as much as we count on them, they count on us all the more. Cetal M Joint Supplements for Horses is a new approach to joint health, powered by omega-5 fatty acids, which helps maintain healthy joints by reducing inflammation and promoting positive immune response. Cetal M uses an optimal blend of plant-derived cetyl myristoyate, glucosamine, and MSM for superior results. Visit scorejointhealth.com for your $10 off coupon. For tough rides and long hauls, they're here to make your horse's lives the best they can be. Manna Pro, nurturing life. Remember, it's scorejointhealth.com for a $10 off coupon.
Were you cocky when you were 16 and 17 and off on your own? Were you real confident and real proud back then?
I don't know. I guess that's a matter of perspective. I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, but that's a subject that I kind of learned. That's a principle for me that I kind of learned early. And that's kind of during the time, like what you're talking about, when you're getting your freedom and you're about. I did some things, but you get your head handed to you. That's what I found out. When you get cocky and you're pretty full of yourself, then somewhere along the line you get it handed to you in one way or another, and it kind of, which is a good thing. You learn to kind of tone it down a little bit.
Sure, that was back when like Leo and Gerald, right? Like who put you in your place, or who against whom put you in your place?
More than anything, my own conscience did.
I see.
Because I don't know, there was just kind of, my own conscience would tell me, that you don't need to talk like that, or you don't need to say that, or you don't need to act like that, and so I would just, my own conscience kind of held me, kind of taught me, which has been a progression through the years. You don't ever stop learning, but
sure.
I was still pretty wild until I was about 25, and then I think, like everyone, when you get a family, you have your first child, you have your responsibility of putting a roof over your family's head, and the responsibilities of life start to accumulate. It makes you look at the world differently, and you start to realize that your parents, the things that they said and the things that they tried to teach you, oh wow, they were right.
Right. Absolutely. Your rookie year was 1981. How old were you?
20.
Who did you, so you made the, oh no, your rookie year was 1979 and you were 20. And you made your first finals in 81. What was the learning curve between 79 and 81? What did you have to work on?
Actually, I got my card in 79, but I didn't rodeo. I just had it for the end of the year. A guy asked me, Brian Burrows asked me to go to some fall rodeos And so I filled my permit quick, and then I got my card just to go to like Albuquerque and some fall rodeos in California, but I turned my card back and still amateured. So I went for about 2 months just because he needed a partner for the end of that year. And dumb me, I didn't realize I screwed my rookie deal up. But
Yeah.
I was just excited to get to go rope with a real good roper. Brian Burrows was like a
Was
cool
that,
cat
yeah.
spinning Mo Dinker. So
Was that when he had that cool mare? He
yeah,
had that great horse, right? Yeah.
yeah, Myrtle.
Myrtle. Yes, I remember. I
So
talked to
I actually didn't really get my card till '81 with Brett Beach to go to
81.
rodeo with the
Uh-huh.
intention of going all year and trying to make the finals.
And you didn't have a family then, so it was like young rodeo cowboy fun in 81, or was it serious in the rig with Brett Beach at the time?
I thought it was serious because we had jackpotted and amateured for 3 or 4 years together, making a living.
Mm-hmm.
But then, it was time for us to move up because we had pretty much dominated the California, the jackpots everywhere, Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
California, New Mexico. And we knew we thought we were ready for the big time. So we got our cards and joined up, and away we went.
That first finals in 81, the PRCA's, I'm just looking at their website and they don't have like the full results of the finals that year. Did you have a good finals at your first time, or was it rough?
No, I don't think we had a very good finals. I think we might have placed a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
but we were running over ourselves, and we were having probably too much of a good time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to talk a little bit about partners because you've had pretty much, it seems like when I look back through your history, you've roped with all the greats over the years. And I know we've done stories on what makes a great partnership, but they're also different. Is there a partner that you had the most fun with? Can you say a partner that was the most fun?
You know, all of them were fun.
I'm sure in different ways too. Yeah.
Well, just the relationships,
Yeah.
and when you go into battle with somebody, you kind of form a a unique bond in one way
Mhm.
or another. And so each one of those partnerships were good, and uh, I had fun with traveling and roping and preparing and practicing and winning and uh, with every one of them.
I love all the back when you were traveling with Chad and Caleb and Jade, that partnership with all of you guys seems like such a riot to me in just all the different dynamics that would have been in the rig at the time. You've roped with a lot of young guys over the last decade, I guess. Do you like that role as like the sensei in the rig or the mentor, or do you just kind of stay quiet and let them be young kids and not give much advice?
No, I just tried to be me. I mean, I don't really offer advice until you start kind of breaking it down and the other person
Mhm.
opens up, and then you feel like you're able to say something or kind of
Mhm.
give your perspective. I mean, it's just kind of a judgment. So I don't try to kind of throw my weight around because I've been around, really. I mean, because I don't want to be perceived that way. And actually, my opinion, what do I know? My opinion is just my opinion. I do things because it works for me, but it doesn't. Not everybody has to do it that way. I mean,
Sure.
there's lots of different ways to, and I like learning too. So I don't like to cut off the avenue of the opportunity to get feedback from. Because what I found, what was interesting to me, once you get on the other side of that, is that the young guys have, and I learned that with speed. I think that was the first time that I was kind of on the other side of the equation a little bit, where I
Mm-hmm.
was the senior partner, and what I found is he had some great insight on all the intangibles of rope, and I realized, man, I can learn some things. And so I started to look at it that way. So it was fun to
Mm-hmm.
me. I just thought I was one of the guys, uh,
Yeah.
with Jade and Caleb, and I know they looked at me as kind of the senior guy, and I've been around, and we had conversations with that. What was it like back in the day, and telling about the great ropers, the Leo and Gerald and Denny Watkins and Ricky Green
Mm-hmm.
and all those guys leading up to time, Bobby Harris and T. Woolman, and so that's fun, being able to tell them what it was like, because rodeoing was way different way when I
Sure.
started. I mean,
Yeah.
we went to 125 rodeos, not 65. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like we chartered everywhere we went in airplanes, and the majority of the rodeos we went to were 500 added, not 10,000 added. And,
Yeah.
uh, and so it was a whole different way of doing it. But
It
as
was so
far as
different.
the
Yeah.
competing hasn't changed. I mean, but we did, with Chad and Caleb and Jade, we had kind of a unique year because they kicked butt all year long. I mean, and then Chad and I got it going pretty good, uh, starting in the Fourth of July, and then we rolled up there behind them, and then so we were number one and two teams, and we were pulling for each other and pushing for each other, and I mean, when we hooked up, it's like we got it rolling as a buddy team, and it was fun.
Yeah. And man, the way that year finished up, that was something.
Yeah, that was
So,
pretty cool.
yeah, that split title was something else for sure. Um, you said about how things have changed. How do you attribute, like, rodeo and amateur team roping are so separate but so intertwined sometimes. How do you look at, like, the explosion of the recreational team roping market with the USTRC, then with the World Series? How has that affected your ability to make money in this sport?
When the USTRC came in, it changed the equation, and it really brought about the explosion of team roping. And it was right at the time that Jake and I was getting kicked off and starting to dominate
Mm-hmm.
in our 7-year run there. And so it all kind of went hand in hand. Because team roping got so popular, and then we were at the forefront of, we were doing schools, and we were traveling so hard, and making our names and getting the notoriety of
Mm-hmm.
what we were accomplishing. It really helped us as far as our popularity,
Yeah, yeah.
and kind of was the building blocks of making making us icons, so to speak, which the team roping world had never really had to that level. I mean, I was, before us was the Camarillos. And to me, I mean, I was all into it, but I mean, I'm sure that there was just, it wasn't like a team roping population explosion back then. But when the USTRC came in, and then the newspapers, the spin to win, which turns into the journal, all of that started evolving right in that era, which just kind of go crazy.
Yeah,
And
it has
so it's
been.
been good, and it's just been building ever since. So then you had, the Speed and Rich dynasty, and then you've had, Jade and Clay, and it's just kind of kept going. And then with the USTRC coming in, and it just keeps like it's expounding and getting larger and larger and more popular. But with that, the competition has gotten better as well, and the information age with our cell phones and our videoing abilities and our studying and YouTube and everything online, the information and the access to watching good roping and learning how to do it has exploded as well. So
yeah. Now, do you have what are your goals for the rest of your time in the sport of team roping? I mean, I know you guys have scaled back a little bit as much as the rodeo schedule. Do you think there will be another comeback in this new decade? Are you looking to maybe if the right horse, the right partner comes around?
I don't really see myself going out there full time hard. Unless something on the inside of me just ignited again, but it's not there right now. I mean, I'm content doing things the way I'm doing them. We're doing lots of schools, and that's good money, and I like doing them and teaching, and then I like being home and working with my horses, and I like practicing and just doing things at that pace. But I also want to compete a little bit here and there. And I'm always working on my roping. So I don't know. Like you said, just the right horse and combination. And I guess if I felt like I could go out there and really have a chance to do, win good, then maybe that fire would ignite. But until I get that feeling that I wouldn't want to be out there full time. I mean, I enjoy going and competing here and there, but then I like coming back home and working on it and doing it that way.
Have there been any great disappointments of your career moments? I think of maybe looking back that you just sure wish would have gone another way, like that steer in Pendleton when your horse fell. Anything like that was just a great disappointment over the last 30 years?
Oh, not really. I mean, I think, roping and competing and is like life. I mean, there's going to be bumps in the road, and there's going to be challenges and things that you have to overcome. That's just part of life. That's what makes you, early on, failure and adversity is what made me, bear down and try to figure it out harder and try to press in towards the goal even harder. So, the best, what they say, the best army is the one that's fought some battles.
Yeah.
So that's the lesson of life. So I don't regret really anything. I mean, I've had some disappointments, but that's part of it. You can't win every time. You can't be successful every single time. And if that was the way it was, you wouldn't appreciate it. It wouldn't be any fun. I mean, the challenge is because it's hard. So that's part of the equation. So I don't have really any regrets. I mean, there's times I wished I wouldn't have missed, and I wished I wouldn't have maybe went in with the wrong mindset and the wrong game plan and this and that. But I mean, at the time, you're going in with what you think is best, and that's the decision you make. And then the outcome might tell you something different, and so then you've got to try to change it up and do better next time.
Absolutely, sir. Well, I am so grateful for your time today, Clay, and I absolutely hope you guys are staying healthy, you're staying well, staying home, and all that stuff right about now. So
yeah, it's all good. I appreciate it. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you, Clay. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Score. Thanks to Champ for making the time for us today. And thanks again to our sponsors at Manna Pro. Manna Pro is a recognized leader in the care and nurturing of pets with roots back to 1842 and long-established brands in companion pet, equine, backyard chicken, and small animal categories. Manna Pro's product is Cetal M, and you can check that out at scorejointhealth.com.